Becoming one of the first bands to emerge out of the Athens, Georgia-based Elephant Six collective, led by Elephant Six co-founder Jeff Mangum, Neutral Milk Hotel began its early days as a noise rock outfit mostly defined and led by Mangum. Between 1991 and 1993, he produced 3 cassettes under the band's name, 2 of which remain publicly unreleased in a physical format, and the third of which was the group's first commercial outing. Limited to just a few hundred copies and distributed via mail order for a short time in 1993, Hype City Soundtrack became the holy grail of Neutral Milk Hotel's recordings, laying the definitive blueprint for their only 2 studio albums, On Avery Island and the beloved In the Aeroplane Over the Sea. Today, we're going to take a look at it. Alright, before we get started, I need to make something clear. The cassette label for this album calls itself Hype City Soundtracks. However, everywhere else I look, the album is called Hype City Soundtrack. To avoid confusion, I will be referring to the tape as Hype City for the remainder of this video. Now that we got that out of the way, let's begin. As most of you are aware, one of my more recent videos showed me taking on a new type of content that I will be expanding into an entire series. I went through, albeit very quickly and in an extremely abridged manner, the history of Jeff Mangum and the infamous Neutral Milk Hotel. The entire video was meant to be somewhat of an experiment, for me to dip my toes in to see what works and what doesn't. I experimented with thumbnails, editing tricks, title screens, intros, you name it. I will be expanding on these techniques as the series goes on, but we're not here to discuss those today. If you saw that video, you'd probably recall me very briefly going over Hype City. Hype City Soundtrack gave way to some commercial prosperity to Jeff and his project, with Elephant Six sending the tape out via mail order in 1993. This tape is the first official Neutral Milk Hotel release, although copies are now extremely limited and highly sought after. Hype City is one of the more accessible demo cassettes, featuring semi-polished versions of songs like Synthetic Flying Machine and Gardenhead. Copies of Hype City are estimated at a $130 US market value, after an original 1993 copy was placed for sale on eBay years ago, and its embryonic yet professional lo-fi renditions of Neutral Milk Hotel classics. Well, at the time, I hadn't really given Hype City a thorough listen. Sure, I knew Synthetic Flying Machine, as I mentioned and played in the video, and Gardenhead. Admittedly, that's about it. I listened to snippets of the tape. I'm not going to let something like that happen again in the future, because admittedly that's extremely unprofessional. But last night I heard the song Engine, the final song on the tape, for the first time, and I knew I had to listen and review this tape. It was like it came to me as fate. I'll explain why Engine gave me that click, if you will, in a bit. Unlike Neutral Milk's polished studio efforts from 1996 to 1998, the time span of their only 2 official studio albums, Hype City prides itself on its aforementioned lo-fi tinge. The songs were recorded on a 4-track tape recorder, albeit in a studio environment, and you can tell. The quality is low, the fuzziness of the instruments creates an effect similar to clipping, and there's the obvious tape hiss. But those elements only amplify the tape's unique sound, its unique atmosphere. However, even mixed in with the brilliant indie folk-laced songs, we have experimental pieces as well. One of my favorite Neutral Milk Hotel songs is Ruby Bulbs, especially the one they performed in San Francisco in 1998. I really don't think any version of that song rather, really tops that one. The song appeared for one of the first times here, and my god, it's just bad. Jeff, I think, is in the background singing, but it gets drowned out by someone screaming the lyrics, probably also Jeff, in an over-the-top fashion. It goes from screaming to sounding like a death rattle at points. It gets really annoying. It calls back the song Sailing Through on 1992's Beauty, which ends with Jeff going from sounding extremely angry while he sings into a high-pitched frenzy of broken English and spitting. So yeah, there's that. Los Angeles, or on some releases, Los Angeles Car Song, reminds me of Jeff's first tape under the Neutral Milk name, Invent Yourself a Shortcake. Specifically that really strange interlude by the kid in the first track, Digestion Machine. If you've heard that tape, you probably know what I'm talking about. There's no point in trying to decipher the gibberish he's saying. At least it sounds funny. Now, obviously, Then we have the important meat and potatoes. Besides the incredibly interesting guitar-based songs like Wood Guitar, Tuesday Moon, and Swallowed, also known as a prototype version of April 1st, there are 3 songs that Neutral Milk Hotel fans should know like the back of their hands, and I consider them the peak of the entire record. Synthetic Flying Machine, Gardenhead Leave Me Alone, and Engine. Synthetic Flying Machine is a slow, somewhat funky version of King of Carrot Flowers Part 3 from In the Aeroplane Over the Sea. This was the second formal version of the song recorded, still under its original name from Invent Yourself a Shortcake. Not much here to say besides the fact that it opens the tape on a good note, and come on, I can't be the only one who loves the ending.
No one's going to change my mind. 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 No one's going to change my mind.
Next, we have Gardenhead, and I gotta be real with you all for a second. I've listened to this version of this song at least 100 times in the last month. It's become sort of like my breeding ground for when I'm trying to write songs. I'm starting to get to the point where I favor this version over several others, including a live version from October 1997, which I featured in my previous Neutral Milk video, the Avery Island version, and the live version from San Francisco in April 1998. It's just so different, in a good way. I can't get enough of it. Last, but most certainly not least, we have Engine, the slow acoustic song that closes out Hype City. I'm a sucker for album enders because if you end an album on the right note, I become fixated with that ending. The band has somewhat of a notoriety for being able to do this so well. Take Aeroplane for a good example. I've listened to Two-Headed Boy Part 2 over 100 times in the last 4 months. Yeah, I have issues, okay? Engine originally appeared as the opening track on 1992's Beauty tape in a fashion similar to this one. The song was written when Mangum was suffering from a debilitating bout of depression, and he said that when he wrote the song, he was happy for about 5 minutes before he felt awful again. The song has become renowned as a fan favorite among Neutral Milk Hotel fans, and has been cited on sites like Last FM as one of the most beautiful songs of all time. So what do I have to say? Well, to be quite honest, I'm not sure I have proper words for this. Being someone who suffers from anxiety and depression myself, I saw a lot in this song. Jeff says it's a happy song, but it doesn't sound like it. The lyrics sound desperate, the guitar sounds somber, it sounds like a swan song. But that and the other traits are what make it so brilliant. I don't know if it's just the hysteria of its perfect placement or what, but Engine is definitely standing out as one of the most incredible Neutral Milk songs of all time. This version, this demo version, with a staticky lo-fi tinge, enhanced by tape hiss and clipping, outdoes the official studio version in my opinion. The rawness of Jeff's solo recording on Hype City is one of the best recordings I've ever heard. It's emotional, it's fitting, it's poignant, and it's downright amazing. By the time the song is over, you hear Jeff get up and open the studio door, similar to the ending of Aeroplane, and the tape ends. So what else is there to say about Hype City's soundtrack? Is it an essential listen for indie folk fans? For Neutral Milk Hotel fans? Even the casual ones? To answer those questions in one fell swoop, no. This tape retains its integrity when it's able to be enjoyed at its fullest, even between its quirks, experimentation, and downright silly sound collages interspersed between real songs. I wouldn't say not to listen if you're curious, but don't go in expecting the sounds of On Avery Island and Aeroplane. Be open to difference and experimentation. Compared to Invent Yourself a Shortcake and Beauty, Hype City is a much more accessible work from an already eclectic band. I wouldn't say that it's perfect, or even groundbreaking or mind-bending, but it's definitely an experience that I think needs to be heard if you're interested. With that, I give Neutral Milk Hotel's Hype City soundtrack a 7 out of 10.